The content you're about to enjoy comes from the archives of The Best You. We're devoted to the very best in personal development, with a platform and resources dedicated to inspiring and changing people's lives. At The Best You, we work with the world's leading writers and trainers on the evolution of the self, and people whose journeys have been affected by their work and words. For more information, go to www.thebestyou.co. Jessica Huie. Jessica Huie went from being a teenage mother, expelled from school and living in a hostel, to having a glittering career in public relations, working with some of the world's biggest stars and business people, including Samuel L. Jackson, Simon Cowell, Sir Bob Geldof, and Meghan Markle. When she set up her first business, Colorblind Cards, it started an early national conversation around diversity in retail and is credited as the first independent multicultural greeting card line to be stocked in the UK High Street, earning her invitations to number 10 Downing Street with the UK Prime Minister and an MBE award for services to entrepreneurship, all by the age of 34. Winner of the Daily Mail's Enterprising Young Brit Award and labelled one of Britain's most inspiring entrepreneurs by the Evening Standard, Jessica enjoys an international public speaking career and sits on Glamour magazine's power list as one of the UK's most influential women. Jessica has recently published a great book called Purpose. My work with her, well, I have been working with Jessica for a few years. I've known her for a few years. She was my publicist and the Best You's publicist. And apart from that, she came across as what she is, an extremely eloquent, intelligent woman who I was very interested in interviewing, because I just thought her career and how she has got herself and how she supported so much in entrepreneurship it was something that was really important to put out there. So I'm sure you're going to enjoy this interview. Thank you so much. Hi, and welcome to Inspiring People. Today we're here with Jessica Huie, who is an entrepreneur and a publicist. Having enjoyed a 10-year career working at the pinnacle of the British media with a 7 years spent under the wing of the PR mogul Max Clifford, she has worked with the likes of Simon Cowell and Peter Jones. Hi Jessica, how are you?
I'm good, thank you for having me.
No, it's a pleasure. Tell me a little bit about yourself and where you're from and what you do.
I am 32, mum of two. I have a big daughter who's almost 14 and a baby who is almost 1. I live in London, and my time is spread across running JH Public Relations, Colorblind Cards, and the London branch of Forward Ladies, which is a support organisation for women in business.
Tell me about your earliest memories. Where are you from and what was that like?
I grew up in London, wanted to be a dancer, for a ballerina for a long time, and then grew too tall. In those days, the females had to be shorter than the male ballerinas, so that was kind of out the window, aged about 11. I'd always enjoyed writing, and I wanted to be a journalist. I grew up with both parents, 2 brothers. My parents were always very pro-education and ambitious for us. But then when I was 17, I got pregnant, which kind of threw a spanner in my career aspirations, works. And my parents were obviously very, very disappointed. And it was really quite life-changing for me in a positive way.
What was your relationship like with them after that happened?
It was good. I mean, initially, my parents were, my dad particularly was really quite devastated. He'd worked all his life to give us opportunities, all the extracurricular piano and ballet lessons that cost lots of money, for us. And so he was very disappointed. They both were, and hurt, I guess, with a sense of disappointment and real letdown. So initially, it definitely impacted on our relationship. I moved out young. But then when my daughter was born, I met it was a midwife, I think, who came and sort of checked on me after the birth and suggested that I go back to college. And that really sort of completely changed the direction of my life. And once I did get back into education and began to achieve, my relationship with my parents really improved. They were obviously completely surprised. I think they genuinely believed that that was kind of the end of my of my professional life.
What was school like for you before?
School was fun. I mean, I was always a good student. I went to a state school, a nice little state school, and then I went to a nice secondary state school. But I had nice friends, and I always did quite well. I was distracted. I had a difficult time during my teens, as I think a lot of people do, and for somewhere along the line, those dreams and that self-belief kind of disappeared. Again, I think it's quite common to, you dream big when you're a kid, and then something happens in those teenage years where, for some young people, I think, where you don't, those dreams disappear. And certainly in my case, I didn't, in those days, I didn't know anyone else that had gone to university, for example. I grew up in an estate, as most of my friends did. It wasn't, but my parents worked hard, so we were able to enjoy, as I said, piano, ballet, which were privileges. But I didn't know anyone else that had gone to uni. I didn't see it as something that would be achievable for myself, even though on reflection, academically, I was more than capable.
Any subjects in particular you liked?
English, yeah. I was always a writer. I enjoyed writing and kind of anything creative and expressive. And I enjoyed school. I just fell off course somewhere.
Okay, so then that's when you 17 got pregnant. Then
yeah.
When is it you went back to college?
My daughter was about 6 months old, so I was 18 by that point, and she was about 6 months, and I went and I signed up for my A-levels. I had actually been on the A-level course, but had dropped out twice. Just no focus. I was really lacking focus and a sort of sense of purpose in my life. And I guess Monet coming along, as much as it's not something that I would recommend for any other young person, it gave me purpose. And also I had a massive point to prove to my parents and society and everyone. At that time in the media, there was a real kind of, teenage mums were the scourge of society. And I just wanted it more than anything to be able to I was very aware of that. I wasn't like a teenager that was, oblivious to all these.
Yeah, you had responsibilities and it was different, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I wanted to prove people wrong. And that was a real driving force for me.
So how many years were you in college?
I did my A-levels in a 1 year intense course because I was in a rush to get to uni. And they basically just sort of double up the hours of learning. And so I did sociology and literature, and then I got an A and a C, and then I went straight to uni and did a journalism degree for 3 years afterwards, and just commuted 3 days a week and had a part-time job at Russell and Bromley. Packed the other remaining hours with work experience at the BBC and actually for Pride magazine, and then Max, which is how my career with him started as an intern. My daughter was 2 when I walked into Max's and started on a work experience placement.
So who was an inspiration to you in your early years? I mean, when you actually decided to go to college, was there anybody who was inspirational to you then?
No.
Anybody helped you? No? Anybody stood out?
No, and I'm passionate about role models now. There wasn't anyone that I was, aiming to be or to, mirror.
So what was your first job then, when you actually went through uni?
My very first job was working for Connie Filippello, who was George Michael and Mariah Carey's publicist, and that happened kind of accidentally. One of my part-time jobs was working in a hairdresser's. And I was washing this lady's hair, and you have to make small talk. And she kind of said, she's real large, diva-ish, wonderful character. And she said, darling, you're too intelligent to be working here. And I said, come and work for me. I said, what do you do? And should I run an office? And she invited me along for an interview. And she said, answer the phone, say Connie Filippello publicity. And I did. And she was like, right, start Monday. And it wasn't until the Monday I discovered that she was actually the publicist to Versace, who was alive at the time, and George Michael and Mariah Carey. And that was my initiation into the media. And
your big break.
My big break. And I mean, it was a very junior, office junior role.
How old were you then?
18.
Wow.
18,
wow.
Yeah. So it all kind of happened as I was, continuing my academic journey. And then I just got the bug, and then I just couldn't get enough of experience and soaking it all up. And I just wanted to make sure that we were taught so much that, you know, the media was so competitive, and I wanted to make sure there was no chance that I was going to leave uni without a job.
Do you remember what you got paid in that first job as a junior?
Gosh, not very much. Not very much. And I did a lot of work for free as well. Not for Connie, that was paid. But, you know, I worked for, I did a radio slot for the BBC for about, I'm sure it was at least 6 or 7 months, every other Saturday night, which was free. And Pride magazine again for probably about 7, 8, 9 months, a couple of days a week for free. And it was something I did, you know, with a smile. I was just really happy to be in that environment and feel like I had a use, and, you know, and then opportunities, the possibilities began to open up, and that's exciting. So,
if you're interested in working with me, contributing to the magazine, maybe speaking at any of our many events around the world, partnering or licensing The Best You, go to www.thebestyou.co.
If you could give yourself any advice now, you know, looking at yourself back in the days when you're 16, 17, 18, I mean, what advice would it be?
I guess I would tell my teenage self that, you know, it was all going to be okay. And that, you know, and I shouldn't allow anybody's perceptions or ideas about, you know, who I was to define who I was or what my future was going to be, because it's something that I had to learn. But it would have helped if I'd known it, and then I could have just got on with achieving. But, yeah, probably something like that. You know, we're all in control of our own destiny, and people, you know, often judge and make presumptions with knowing very little.
Exactly. And some people don't actually, because of that poor advice, they don't actually follow it through.
Yeah.
You obviously were very driven, and you did.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you consider yourself happy now?
Yeah, no, I do. I'm very lucky. And, you know, it keeps getting more exciting. You know, I still have the ambition bug. You know, working for myself now, you never stop. There's always more that you can do. You know, my other business, which is colourblind cards, you know, is really exciting because it's a niche market which is untapped, and, you know, we have a global presence in a small way, and you know, and there's so much more to do, and that's really exciting to me rather than being off-putting, because it means that once we get to the position that I intend to take it to, it means I can do a lot with that, and again, that's really exciting. From
your days when you were running the PR and you were working with Max Clifford, I mean, you know, was your focus then already to get into business, or was that just no not then?
No, I loved working for Max. He was a wonderful boss, and, you know, it really that role changed my life.
You must have learned so much.
I learned so much, and I just remember this amazing sense of pride. You know, it's so superficial now, but being like a young person, really young person, walking into the office on Bond Street and being like, I work in Bond Street, and feeling quite fabulous, and, you know. And it was all very exciting, and, you know, there were always incredibly high-profile people walking in and out of our office, and, you know, what more does a sort of 20-something person, you know, in media want? But, yeah, it was wonderful. I learned a lot, and just to have his support and belief in me at such an early stage in my career was really important. And we had some great adventures. Every year we'd go off to Spain, the whole office, to this and do this charity gala. And Max would put all of the women in the office up in our own villa. And my daughter would come along, and there'd always be special arrangements made for her. You know, she was like our office mascot. And and we kind of grew up together through the office. And it was great. But no, I didn't intend to start a business. I just kind of spotted this gap in the market and ran off with it.
So from there, what did you do? Did you carry on, then you started doing your own PR? You set up your own company, and then you went into business? Or
not initially. I started Colourblind Cards whilst I was working for Max, and I continued full-time at Max running the card business, you know, lunchtimes, nighttime, email, for about another 2 years before leaving. And then when I left, I set up JHPR, because, again, it was just organic. People, you know, I had a lot of experience and contacts, and still enjoyed it. The PR that I began to do was slightly different to what I've been doing for Max. Max Clifford is quite well known for all the sensational stories, but there is a very straightforward PR side to the business, which is what we were involved in, as opposed to the kind of front page stories. So, then eventually by 2000 and goodness, 9, 8, 9, I'd left Max's and was running Colourblind and JHPR.
Because you won quite a few awards as an entrepreneur, and you were invited to
Downing
number
Street.
10.
Yeah, no, it was amazing. They were the majority of them have been for Colourblind, and it's great. It's business is hard, and it's always great to have recognition. And some of those awards came at times where perhaps I was considering giving up. I never would have done, but it was a great boost to keep going, and also it's meant that lots of other young women particularly have kind of got in touch over the last couple of years, and with maybe stories that are quite similar to my own, and I've been able to communicate with many of them, which is really nice.
Do you think you've had a turning point in your life that really helped you become who you are now?
Several.
Yeah. Do you mind sharing those?
Yeah, the first would be she wasn't a midwife. She must have been like a counsellor or something. But as a young mum, we sort of have extra attention. And this lady that, I explained that I was feeling really down and kind of hopeless. And she said, well, why don't you go back to college? And it was such a simple statement, but really life-changing. That would be the first one. And then getting my job at Max's. Obviously the birth of my daughter, but yeah, they would be some of them.
And what's your plans now? I mean, a lot of people, because I think part of what happens in schools nowadays is that, they come out of school, they go to uni, and they find themselves in a position where they don't know how to start a business or go and get a job interview. I mean, what's your advice, either if you go or don't go to uni? I
think that I wish in this country that I think things are changing now, and certainly, I'm a big fan of some of these academies. I've spent a fair amount of time in St Matthew's Academy, which is in South London, where they're just doing incredible work. I mean, the level of enterprise amongst these young people from the ages of about 4 straight through to the teen years is amazing. They all have sidelines outside their school. They're making key rings and just really encouraging. And I just think we should encourage our young people to think about not just who they're going to work for when they leave school, but, what are their skills, just to view themselves as a boss first and foremost. Because it wasn't something that was certainly ever taught in my day. But I think that is changing now. And my advice would be to I guess, get to know yourself a little bit, even before thinking about working for someone else. And also, it's fine to go through a process of elimination. Work experience is great. Many people get into their field through, trying it out. And
maybe even later in their life.
Exactly. And you can eliminate what you don't want to do and then arrive at what you do want to do. I think that's okay.
To find out more about our latest projects, get a free coaching lesson, or download my book, go to www.bernardo-moya.com.
The beauty of the kind of the interviews that we do is that we manage to meet very interesting people who obviously are are successful in a way, but are very happy to share their wisdom and their expertise, and that's the kind of things that I think need to happen at schools. I mean, I've got teenagers as well, and that's kind of the things that I think we need to do. What would you like your daughter to do, for example? She's obviously 14 now, and a lot of kids don't really necessarily know what they want to do. But
Monet is creative. I want her to just do whatever she wants to do. Yeah, as much as she has several things she wants to do. She wants to be a performer. She wants to open a school for homeless children. She seems to think there's a market for this. There's all sorts of things she wants to do. Everything that she wants to do is what I want her to do. I want her to, and thankfully I have a little girl who has always seen her mum doing lots, and I've involved her as much as possible. much of the time just through having to. But it means she doesn't see barriers as far as she's concerned. The world is her oyster, which is great. If you can start, your kind of adult life from that point, then, how amazing. But yeah, just be just be a good person, and be aware of this, just retain an awareness of the kind of society that we live in, and all the kind of superficiality and that comes with it, and just maintain some level of equilibrium amongst that, if that makes sense.
No, you're right. And that's one of the things I always like covering as well, is what do you think the problems of society are? Because obviously there's a number of skills that we do, but first, what are the problems you think with society nowadays?
There are many. For me, I think it's very important to... I think it's very simple. I think that there's much to gain, and it shouldn't be your motivation, but there is much to gain from helping. And I think we all grow when we help each other. And if a lot more of that was being done on a wider level, then we wouldn't have many of the issues that we have. When it comes to teenagers failing academically, there was this whole epidemic of gun crime, according to the media recently, and even knife crime. And for me, teenage motherhood was almost a kind of the parallel to that for girls. And I just think it's all of these issues are to do with self-worth and purpose. Because if you have a sense of purpose and a reason to work hard and do well, then you don't do silly things like that. If you care about yourself enough to want to live a fantastic life, and you're looking forward to the future, then you don't jeopardize it by making silly mistakes. And I just think, it's always about looking to the root of these problems and trying to address that, rather than just dishing out punishment or judgment. And I feel very strongly about kind of supporting and encouraging young people. They're the future, and I think I've experienced how powerful it can be when you just have one individual who does believe in you and encourages you. It can really be life-changing. So, yeah, I guess that's part of...
Well, that's it.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. No, that's really nice. And I think it's also difficult to define, I suppose, because there's many skill sets out there that are required. But, I've got my thoughts, what I would think are the most important. But what would you think are, if there was only two skill sets that people should really focus on now, what would they be?
Skill sets, goodness. Communication. Yeah, you need that across the board. Gosh, there's so much happening online. It's difficult. It's a difficult question.
No, but I think
it would depend on where you want to go. But
I think that's somewhere. And to be honest, I agree with you. I think communication is absolutely essential. Unfortunately, you get a lot of people who are actually looking for a job, and they leave school or uni and they can't actually communicate. They can't engage with a proper conversation, eye contact, or whatever it may be.
And a lot of that is to do with confidence often.
Well, it is. It is. And then also, yes, nowadays I think it's with the internet and everything, being able to know how to brand yourself, market yourself, through social media, your webpage. You're a brand after all. That's the way I like to look at it.
Yeah.
And giving people the right advice to build a nice, proper, solid brand. With the cards, okay, when that came to you, you thought of the idea.
Yeah.
How did that come to you? Did you all of a sudden how did that happen?
I was looking for a card for my daughter, and I've told this story lots of times, but I was looking for a card for her that would represent her, because she was going through this stage where she wanted to look everything that she didn't. It doesn't make any sense, but, she wanted long, straight hair like Barbie. She was 7. She has gorgeous curly brown hair, and... so I went looking in the card stores for a little black princess, and just realised there was a complete absence of anything representing the society that we live in, which is probably the most multicultural city in the world.
Definitely, absolutely.
And I just thought that on a social level, it is really important that kids have access to images which represent them, positive images, and that it's important. We're bombarded, particularly girls, with ideals of beauty all the time, many of which are really unobtainable and unhealthy. I wanted to create something which would kind of say, well, beauty comes in all guises, and you're beautiful just as you are. That's kind of the ethos behind the range. And on a commercial level, it just seemed like a crazy oversight considering the market, and sort of came up with the idea for colourblind cards there and then.
And where are you with it now?
Now, it's been ticking along for the past few years because the PR has grown so quickly and been so intense. But recently I kind of reevaluated, and I'm spending a lot more time and focus now on colourblind. We have a wonderful position. You know, we have a really strong following, and the people that love the brand and love what we're doing, which is wonderful. So we are in South Africa and in the US in a small way. We're in Barbados and even Bermuda. We were in many of the Clinton stores until they went into liquidation recently. We're still in a few. And then lots of independents, and of course on our own website, which is colourblindcards.com.
Lovely. And I just wanted to ask you about Forward Ladies. I know you're part of, you run an entrepreneurship, which is explaining a little bit about it.
Forward Ladies, I was approached to do their PR a while back because I've been working with a lady who's on their board called Deirdre Bounds, who's incredibly inspirational. She founded Eye2Eye, the Gap Year travel company, and then she sold it for like 20 million. But I was working with her and she'd recommended me to handle their PR. And when I met up with Etta Cohen, who founded Forward Ladies in the year 2000, she explained that no one was running the London branch, and me being me, I decided to take it on. And so earlier this year, I took on London, which just means that I am responsible for putting on events, which I think will be of interest to anyone within the network or outside of. But we obviously give special care to our Forward Ladies members, and they come along and they hear inspiring speakers or get involved in skills workshops. The most recent one was Get Your Business in the Media, and we had someone from Twitter and myself and another PR expert spoke, which was really well received. And it's all about supporting other women in business at any level. So we're not elitist, which is really what appealed to me. Some of these groups can be quite cliquey, and I think that there's always common ground wherever you are in your business or professional life. So it's all about supporting and empowering and improving.
I think the world needs a lot more, networks like that, business women in general, everywhere.
Yeah.
We need women everywhere because you're so much better than us guys.
Thank you.
The last question I wanted to ask you, what would you want your legacy to be?
Just as somebody that inspired and helped. It's probably as simple. I'd like to be, the vision for the brand is to be the market leader globally for multicultural greeting cards. And it's wonderful to be in South Africa because politically it's a real smooth step forward that people can walk into the high street and see black faces on greeting card shelves. And I want to kind of spread that globally. When it's not about race, it's not about exclusivity, it's about inclusivity. And we're all one people. We're a human race, and I'm trying to create something which is all encompassing. And if that has a sort of a social trickle down effect, which, makes kids, sometimes I do events and kids go, that's me, and that's me, and that's me. And it's not them, but it's like, I get that because it's a novelty and I want it to not be a novelty. And we want to got lots of plans, but someone who helped, I guess.
Thank you very much.
Thank
very,
you.
very
Thank
nice.
you for having me.
Very nice. Thank you very much. And thank you very much for watching Inspiring People.
For more information, go to www.thebestyou.co.